just love the John.
Biggest U-turn since winter fuel allowance.
Cut that.
Because loose lips sink ships.
And what the fans want is to stop teams being owned by madmen.
Sticky patch came when the rest of the team's sticky patch came, which was sort of January onwards.
Grumble, poops joke. Hot wings.
You should be stood outside Hillsborough, stocks having rotten fruit thrown at him.
Sheffield is a place like no other.
Low on the far post, it's cut back instead for Smith. Oh, a sensational goal! The Wednesday week!
Put on your podcast!
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Wednesday Week. My name's Stevie Spence, and this evening I'm joined by Nathan from the now internationally renowned Rob Ryan Red podcast. I wanted to make sure I got those in the right way. And we are here to discuss this weekend's game against those upstarts down in Wrexham in this week's episode of... Nathan, how are you?
I'm loving all these like glitzy intros and music you got. I'm loving it, mate. I've never been on a podcast where we've had a reggae version of Adele. So yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Not at all. So the Hollywood books haven't made it down to that sort of level of production on your podcast yet?
No, it's much more basic over here, mate. Like I say, if we can sort of get any of the Ryan and Rob's friends to do as sort of alternate versions of their songs for our intros, I would gladly receive that. But no, we're still waiting on that, mate, for the minute.
Note it down. There's an opportunity for you there.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into it then. Let's start right back. Or before we go right back, I want to sort of start in the present, if that's all right. You have been on an absolute roller coaster of a journey, I suppose you'd imagine, as a set of supporters. Can you put into words at the moment how it feels to be a Wrexham fan?
Put it into words. It's an incredible experience. Everybody hates you pretty much. You are everything that's wrong with football. Apparently, this is the worst story in all of football. Can't wait for Wrexham to cease and desist and etc. But to go from 15 years in the National League, where you have very little hope every season of ever escaping that, I still think that is the toughest league to get out of. I know how difficult the Championship is. We've seen in the first 2 weeks just how difficult that is against Southampton and West Brom. But the National League is, if you're not in it week by week, you just don't understand how difficult that is to get out of when you're just going through the motions in there. So to be in there for 15 years, to get out and then to have back-to-back promotions history, no one's ever achieved that. All the criticism that has been labelled at Rob and Ryan and Phil Parkinson and others. So yeah, to accurately sum it up, it's been a roller coaster is the only right word to describe it.
It's amazing, isn't it, that you get so much vitriol, I suppose, and in actual fact, 95% of the fan bases that are giving you that vitriol would swap places with you in a heartbeat, wouldn't they?
Yeah, it ultimately, would we feel the same if it was another team in the EFL that had this incredible backing? Probably. So I can understand it. It is just jealousy for the most part, and a lot of the vitriol just comes from people desperately wanting it to go wrong, right? Rather than actual evidence that it will. So I'm enjoying it for, like I say, things in life, sport particularly, like everything comes in cycles, right? Like you're bad for a certain period of time, you're good for a certain period of time, then you'll be bad again, then you'll be good again. So right now it's good. I'm enjoying that. It's been a tough start to the Championship, so I'm trying to cherish the good for as long as we have it.
Okay, so let's go back to that sort of the genesis of that takeover, if you like. Looking back sort of 4 or 5 years ago, did you think you'd come so far so quickly?
Absolutely not. I'd be a fool to come on here. I would be making a mockery of myself to sit on the Wednesday week and say that, I fully expected us to go back to back. What I will say is, after the first season where we missed out and we brought Ollie Palmer in the January and we missed out to Stockport and lost to Grimsby in an epic, really, 5-4 playoff defeat at home, playoff eliminator, I did feel confident the following season that we would do it. I didn't expect it to be in the fashion it was against Notts County in that people will have seen the Ben Foster penalty save and everything that came with that. I didn't expect it to be that dramatic, that higher points total and whatnot. I did expect us to get out just because we did have that financial advantage in the National League. We were able to recruit players from League One, League Two, and we had a major financial advantage. League Two, with 3 automatics and the playoffs, I did expect us to get out again there. But we'd kept the kind of the core. We'd added other pieces. Felt like that realistically was going to happen and go up again. I don't think the gap between the National League and League Two is huge. I didn't expect us to get out of League One at the first time of asking. And while I don't think we were great getting out of League One, I'm not. That's not to diminish our achievement. It's an incredible achievement, but I actually think it was more reflective of the league. The fact we struggled to score goals and were able to get automatic promotion, I think, showed what a good opportunity last year was for us. And now we're in the big leagues in the Championship.
Yeah, and you've alluded sort of previously to that 15-year stint down in sort of non-league, effectively, as what it is, and to see where you are now. You've gone from that sort of community club to, and there's no way that you can't dress it up as anything other than you are a global name on, the football sort of circuit now. How do the older, the more long-standing supporters feel about that? Is there any sort of negativity? And I know it might sound like a bit of a silly question. Is there any sort of traditionalists sort of feel that you've done it in the wrong way, or you've bought the success and that's brought anything negative around, or is it just a case of everybody going, we're back in the league and we're doing well?
Look, there's always a small minority. I would say a small minority around Wrexham that maybe feel like it would have been nice, it would have been purer to have got up via fan ownership. But we tried that. We used to have this thing called build the budget, where all season long you would chip into a bucket, and at the end that would be your transfer kitty at the end of the season. And that would, you would basically dictate the transfer budget for the season. And as romantic of
Right.
an idea as that is, when we missed out in the playoff final to Grimsby, I think something clicked there with a lot of people. Definitely clicked with me that we probably weren't going to be able to do it in fan ownership. We just weren't going to be able to get out of the meat grinder that is the National League. So, there was a unanimous vote for private ownership. And I think, what was really comforting when we found out it was Rob and Ryan was that reputationally they can suffer so much if it went wrong. And
Yeah.
unfortunately for clubs like yourself and Birmingham and Bury and all these others, and we've had unscrupulous owners in the past ourselves, like seedy businessmen that can kind of just fade into the background. Morecambe only recently, right? And obviously yourselves going through it now. Rob and Ryan with their like A-list reputation, they almost couldn't get it wrong for what it would do reputational damage to them. So I actually took a great deal of comfort from it being those two. I know people could point to, well, they don't know the first thing about football. Understandable, but they went and hired, really, for want of a better phrase, agricultural people to do the football stuff for them. Phil Parkinson, proper EFL manager. Sean Harvey, definitely has his detractors, does have his fans now as well, but just knows how to get stuff done, is fine being unpopular. Les Reed, who's been, at the top of the FA in terms of recruitment and player development. So they really sort of took it on, said, we can be the marketing guys, we can be the face of this, and we'll leave the football to other people. And I think that's why it's been such this beautiful harmony, really, in terms of why it's worked so well.
I'm going to part the Ryan and Rob stuff for a moment. You brought up Phil, and I've got this real thing about Phil Parkinson, and I've no dog in the fight, if you like, but he's always struck me traditionally as the kind of, spit and sword sort of manager, I suppose, that would be a lower league stalwart that had, he was brought in to get you out of the conference and then get you out of League Two and then get you out of League One. In the Championship, is he a manager that you guys would put, your faith in sort of bringing a promotion push for the Premier League about?
Very difficult to say, isn't it? I mean, I would always offer when people say Phil Parkinson's he's not good enough, he's never going to get you up, he's never going to. I always just say to other people, if it was Sheffield Wednesday, if it was, I don't know, if it was Derby or Mansfield, whoever the club was, and a manager's just got you promoted 3 times in a row, would you feel like you want to move on from that manager? Probably not. Like, is my answer to that. You probably wouldn't. And if you say you would, I I don't like using this word, but I think you might be a bit of a liar. Because I don't think you would feel like that. I don't. So we shall see. Look, Phil Parkinson's never had money like he's got it now. So he's worked on a
Yeah.
much more of a shoestring budget at Colchester and Bolton, Bradford. Nothing, everything pales in comparison to Wrexham. He's just spent 7.5 million. That could rise to 10 million for Nathan Broadhead. We're working on a deal currently. I don't know when that'll happen. Some point this week to get Callum Doyle from Manchester City. That's 5 million up front, rising to 8 million. Lewis O'Brien from Nottingham Forest. That's 3 million, rising to 5. So with figures we're talking here, well over 20 million. You're looking more towards 30. And if they make any more, Phil Parkinson's never seen money like that. So with that is pressure. And can his football, which is more direct, and I don't think I'm sort of reinventing the wheel there with that. It's direct football. He's got Kiefer Moore. That's like the archetypal Phil Parkinson player. Can that be effective at this level? Is that spit and sawdust, which I don't think is a bad thing. He's clearly, he plays winning football, is what I tell people. They say he plays direct football. I say he plays winning football. Can that win at this level? And we're about to find out over the course of 40, was it now 44 more games that we've got or something?
Yeah.
It, we'll find out, won't we? And all I know is Phil Parkinson is he's very frustrated and upset with how the first two games went. I spoke to him in the press conference after the West Brom game. Very soft goals and very angry he was. I would be interested if Wrexham were to be on the wrong end of a result against Sheffield Wednesday, where that leaves them. Because you've only got Millwall then, and then it's the international break. And we know that international breaks are sort of losing managers' worst nightmare. So I'm jumping the gun a little bit. We'll wait and see. I think Parkinson will get ample rope. I think he's been backed heavily. He's got legendary status at the football club. But you'd have to be honest and say the jury's out, isn't it? If he's good enough, I can't really answer that. I've got nothing to back it up if he is.
Yeah. So my follow-up question to that one then, if and when the pressure comes, is it going to come from the terraces or is it going to come from the boardroom?
Probably more the terraces, which is strange to say. I think the boardroom are very, very patient. I think they've shown real patience with players that are surplus to requirements. Mullin, Palmer, they've never really intervened like that. Mike Williamson, we've never really seen him put in a position where he's had to pull the trigger on a manager. I think that's also this difficult. We've got this regime, but they've never actually had to make that difficult decision of sacking a manager. So in the whole time, I know Robin Ryan came in initially and Dean Keats was moved on and kind of didn't have his contract renewed. But that was really, really early days. They made one appointment, they got Phil Parkinson in, and they've never had to get rid of him. So I think that will be a real sort of landmark moment in the journey. A bit cliche, but you know what I mean. In the journey when they do have to make that right. This isn't working. We've spent 30 million. We're 19th. We need to make a change. And I think that is something where, for us as Wrexham fans, I've been going years and years, and I've seen us, lose very badly at places like Ebbsfleet and Guiseley and others. So I wouldn't necessarily say that everyone, but there's a lot of people that maybe this season is a bit of a reality check on expectation as well. That's not a bad thing, but if we finish mid-table, Phil Parkinson shouldn't get sacked off the back of that.
Yeah.
I think just because you don't get a 4, you gotta be realistic as well. If we finish rock bottom on 5 points, then it's obviously the end of the road. But I think we need to keep expectations a little bit in check for Wrexham. So so that's a very long-winded way to say Phil Parkinson, I think, would cut more flack from the terraces than the boardroom, I think.
Okay, so you've touched on the squad a little bit there and talking about the transfers. We've talked a little bit about how much money he's had to spend, how things have been different in terms of style of play, in terms of what the squad looks like now. Obviously, it's a very different squad in the Championship to the one that was in the Conference 3 years ago. Can you just give me a brief overview as to how that squad has evolved, the sort of players, the profile, where you were buying from previously, the journey from looking at free transfers, I would assume, and academy players to where you are now? How have things changed, and who've been the standout players that you've signed for anybody that hasn't watched the documentary?
Yeah, firstly, I'll say sorry, Stevie, because I'm jumping around topics galore here. So I'm going to try and stay on track right now for you. I can do
Don't
that,
worry,
hopefully.
don't worry. It's a chat, mate. It's a chat. You go for it. You go for it.
As people know, I'm tangent central here. But so yeah, National League. I think one of the big misconceptions was this idea that Wrexham. Okay, so I'm going to say this idea that Wrexham financially doped their way through the divisions. You can break that down into they didn't pay a lot on transfer fees at the beginning. It was free agents. Now the wages on offer, I'm not going to deny they were healthy for the level. Very
Mm.
healthy in the National League, very healthy again in League 2 and League 1 I think pretty competitive. And then Championship probably we're more so on fees than wages, but there we go. So National League, you go and recruit Paul Mullin, who's just been promoted to League 1 with Cambridge, best player in League 2, player of the year, comes in, wants to move closer to home, tells Cambridge he's not going to stay, comes in for Wrexham, is incredible. Signed a lot of key pieces. You look at defenders like we had Aaron Hayden. He's now at Carlisle, but he was massive for us. A monster in both boxes. Who else did we go and get? The likes of Ben Tozer. These are the kind of National League years. Ben Tozer, James Jones, Anthony Ford, and we had some decent players. Don't get me wrong. We were pretty good, but we weren't complete, I would say. And then in the January of
Mm.
that first season of Phil Parkinson, they go and spend club record fee, only a couple of 100,000 at the time, on Ollie Palmer. And that completely changed our season. He was scored on his debut against Grimsby. He just knitted the thing together. We couldn't believe how like that target man just made everything else make sense, right? So you've got wide players like Jacob Mendy, and others, Ryan Barnett and co. And so everything's sort of coming together now. That it's working. We finish second, we don't go up, and then the following season, you got players like Elliot Lee, who's been
Mm.
there with us through non-league. Really, really good players. Mark Howard come in, really experienced goalkeeper. So the likes of Elliot Lee and and Palmer were absolutely massive for us in the National League. They get us up. Then you add in players like James McLean. Again, they're always looking for that division above, right? So you're looking at, say, James McLean, and in League Two we were decent. Again, Stockport were kind of a year ahead of us, but we were solid and in a good battle with Mansfield, MK Dons, those kind of teams. I mentioned him previously, but Ryan Barnett at right wing back was phenomenal for us in the kind of non-league and League Two and kind of lost his way a bit in League One. But yeah, he was obviously he's been great for us coming through the National League, picking him up from Solihull Moors. But Lee again was key, and like I say, McLean, Palmer still had a big role, Mullin, but bit by bit, obviously you're starting to change the team. So we get him do that double bounce quite quick, what we all expected. You get into League One and you go and recruit players like George Dobson, who's basically spent his entire career in League One with Charlton. And trying to think who else we went and got Matty James on a short term contract. Obviously, played like 40 games the season before for Bristol City. So we're kind of adding experienced pieces, and other players were dropping off the radar. The likes of Jacob Mendy, who scored a really famous goal for us against Notts County in that epic game where Ben Foster saved the penalty. He's
Yeah.
kind of fallen away now. It's all about McLean. You end up getting Ryan Longman in. Come in, he came in from Hull, and in the January they kind of given up really on Palmer and Mullin, and they were the kind of stars of the documentary. They moved on from them and got Sam Smith out of Reading for 2 million. That was a club record at the time. And Jay Rodriguez, who we all know obviously from Premier League fame. And I should mention, given I'm on a Wednesday podcast, the massive role Stephen Fletcher played for us in League Two and League One. He was a cult hero for us. Amazing player, and I think were it not for the 25-man squad limit and his ability to maybe play 25 half an hour, I think he'd still be, if there was an endless list of players, he would still be there now today. But he's not. And so I don't want to neglect him in that rise. But anyway, they go and get Sam Smith, go and get Rodriguez, and that just about gets us over the line. And yeah, here we are in the championship. And again, they've had major surgery to the squad. You know, we're talking at 9 players already. Callum Doyle will be the 10th, and they're looking at maybe 2 more. So more than an entire 11 there of new players.
Yeah. I left it late and only watched a documentary. It was out at the beginning of the pre-season, wasn't it? I only got round to it in the last sort of 2-3 weeks. And I have to admit, watching Stephen Fletcher tearing it up for you guys was absolutely tear-jerking. One of those players that he's been on a podcast quite recently, talking about the misfortunes that we're going through at the minute, and effectively was told that he could stay if he took a 75% reduction in his wages. Which nobody's going to do. But he was happy with us, and he's one of the best centre forwards we've had in sort of the last 10 years. To see him doing as well as he was for you guys was absolutely phenomenal for him, and he will get nothing but sort of good grace if ever he sort of makes his way back to Sheffield. He's an absolutely phenomenal player. You've alluded to the 11 signings that you've made, give or take, this summer. Who would be the marquee one, do you think? All the players, regardless of fees, who's the one that stands out the most for you?
Well, the one that well is the obvious one. I think that's a cracking signing, getting Josh Windass on a free. I think that's sensational business from us. I know people, maybe Wednesday fans, are pointing to his injury record and the fact he is out now with a hamstring pulled hamstring for 4 to 6 weeks. I think for me the marquee one is Connor Cody coming in to sort of anchor our back three. I know we've not made the best start in terms of defensively. I do just think for me, the way he speaks, the way he carries himself, that is like having a future manager, future assistant manager out there on the pitch. So I love everything that he stands for, everything that he brings. In terms of if I quickly rattle through them. So we went and got Danny Ward on a free and goal. Connor Cody has come in for 2 million. Kiefer Moore. Now you've got to think, for Welsh football fans, that is huge to have the sort of the starting Wales centre forward playing for us and not one of Cardiff or Swansea. That is massive. Kiefer Moore in there for 2 million. And I should say all of these players are apparently the worst football players to ever pull on a pair of boots, according to the fans of the clubs they're leaving. So that's always very funny. So yeah, Ward, Cody, Moore, they're obviously on the more experienced end. We went and got Liberato Cacace, a left wing back out of Serie A. That's completely different to what we've gone for normally. We've mainly gone for players on these shores. So to get Cacace is very exciting. He did have a bit of a hamstring problem, which meant he sat out the West Brom game. I think he will come back in for the Wednesday game personally, ahead of James McLean, but we shall see. So that's 4. Nathan Broadhead has come in, club record move, 7.5 million, potentially rising to 10 million. Although Parky said we'd need to win the Champions League to pay the full 10 million there, so maybe it is 7.5, 8.5. He's come in again, another Welsh international, 27, very exciting, 4-year contract. That is huge. Well, like I said, when we've gone from build the budget in the bucket to now offering 4-year contracts on big wages. That's 5. Windass is 6. Don't really need to say too much about him. You guys know way more about him than I do. Lewis O'Brien in from Nottingham Forest, been at Swansea before, been in MLS, really accomplished at the level. Ryan Hardy's come in from Plymouth. He was at one of our first signings, if not the first one. About 700,000 or something. I'd say he's probably third choice right now in the front line. So it's a weird one. He's been signed and kind of replaced in the same window. It happens like that. And then there's one that I'm forgetting, George Thomason, Bolton's club captain, coming. We haven't seen him play yet. He has got an injury. So that is the 9. And if we get Callum Doyle from Man City, that would be the 10th. And there we are. So really, you're looking at. I'll wait a second just in case you're going to ask me what the team will be against Wednesday. But you can see that there's a lot of players there that all expect to start. So for the ones that got us here, it's kind of thanks for the memories and sort of sit back there or go find a new club. So that's always tricky.
Is there for you guys in the terraces, is there and I know this might sound like a bit of a silly question, is there any sort of room for sentiment with the likes of Elliot Lee, Palmer? I believe you've still got Jack Marriott on your books, have you not? That were there and now sort of in the periphery with all these players coming in, or is it we are just going to be here and we're going to see these guys on the pitch and these are our new sort of terrace heroes?
No, there's some sentiment for sure. A lot of people were very upset to see Paul Mullin leave on loan to Wigan. That was
Hmm.
gut wrenching for a lot of people. And I have to say, when we beat Hull City on penalties in the Carabao Cup the other night, we were 3-1 down going into stoppage time, and Ollie Palmer comes up and just scores two headers. The roar for the second one, which forces the shootout, it will stay with me for a while. That was a sentimental celebration, really.
Yeah,
It Yeah, you hate saying like that goal means more than other because when Windass scored at Southampton, we were all buzzing, and yeah, I completely get that. And football's a ruthless business; you move with the times. But to see Palmer score that second one in particular from Ryan Barnett's cross, Ryan Barnett with us in the National League, Ollie Palmer with us in the National League. I get it was the Carabao Cup, but yeah, that noise, that feeling, yeah, of course, a bit of sentiment exists, but a lot of people can also understand that is Marriott, is Palmer, is Fletcher, is Mullin, are they as good as what's ahead of them? Is Ollie Palmer as good as Kiefer Moore? No. Is Elliot Lee as good as Nathan Broadhead?
yeah,
No. So ultimately, that's that catch 22. You want to root for those guys that you want to take everyone all the way, but you just can't. You just can't.
yeah. How's Josh doing? I know he's injured. How the first two games? How's he been?
Yeah, one of our best players at Southampton. The way he smashed the crossbar, scored the penalty. He's got a swagger about him that I like, that I'm sure you lot know well. The way he carries himself, he's confident, and you're going to need that because Wrexham, like I say, there's a lot of people are desperate to turn Wrexham over, and everyone's going to be celebrating at
Mm,
your expense. So, I want him to kind of be giving it back a bit if he scores a winner late on and go give it to the away fans. I like these kind of characters that are prickly and yeah, he's done well by all accounts so far. It's a bit of a funny one though because he's apparently already had a bit of an issue with his hamstring, and then obviously started against West Brom, and then within half an hour it's flared up and gone. I guess hindsight's 2020, but it does seem like that one was probably preventable if you could have sat him, but we don't really have the quality in that position to sit him, so it's a bit of a difficult one. When I was chatting to you guys when Windass signed, the chatter was that he would score against you a lot and celebrate. Well, you can be rest assured that is not going to happen because he's not going to play. He will be in the stands, I'm sure, just watching like everyone else. So, yeah, really disappointed. Really like him. I think he's definitely got kind of Player of the Year potential for us if he continues at the rate he looked in that first game, particularly.
yeah, he's very much. It's the way that he carries himself, and you allude to that swagger and his demeanour can be quite divisive. But I am one of those. I'm very firmly in the camp of he was one of our better players. He's the best or the top goal scorer that we've had since we've come out of the Premier League. For me personally, if we could have kept him, I'd have kept him. Circumstances dictated that we wouldn't. And if I'm honest with you, I wanted him as far away from the Championship as possible for those reasons. I didn't want to see him coming and darting the Sheffield Wednesday doors in another kit, and to see him wearing a red kit with United on it as a Sheffield Wednesday fan was absolutely gut wrenching during pre-season. Just a final one on your squad. Then is it a squad that's been built for consolidation, or is it a squad that's pushing to get out of the league again? 4 in a row would be some achievement, wouldn't it?
Yeah, no, I think. Well, I think, and I know that Wrexham they have a 2-year plan to get to the Premier League in their mind. So this is a big window of opportunity and overhaul. The idea being you can maybe make a couple of alterations in January, see where you are, aim for a top half finish if they can, and then next summer you are just adding those quality pieces. Again, you shed off some of the more depth pieces that are 2026. You add in a couple of quality ones, and then you give it a really good go. Playoffs, maybe automatics. They look at Birmingham as having a year head start because Birmingham basically had a championship caliber team in League One. That's absolutely fine. And they've added some really, really good pieces as well. You've seen them linked to Oxlade Chamberlain, Alexander Mitrovic. They are being
Yeah,
linked with the right caliber player that will get you out of this league. So really, for Wrexham, it's a 2-year plan, but that means showing decent signs of progress for 30 million or whatever they've gone and spent so far this summer.
Yeah. Listening to you guys talking, it's a tough one. It's a tough listen. Talking about Birmingham, talking about Wrexham, it's disappointing from us to be listening to people talking about a club being run right and a club being run well. And I know we talked about those in the sort of early phases of this conversation. It was about our situation versus yours. We're in a mess, a hell of a mess, and to listen to an organisation that is being run in the right way is quite frustrating, to be honest with you.
I can fully empathize with it wasn't that long ago. The day of the Southampton game was the day that Wrexham fans rallied to raise £100,000 to save the football club. So look, Sheffield Wednesday are a massive club with huge problems, with a seemingly immovable force, unfortunately for you guys. And I know that whatever protest you make, if you make one, I'm assuming you will, at the racecourse, that will be fully backed by any and all Wrexham fan, and any fan that doesn't back that isn't clued up on their own Wrexham history. So everyone I'm speaking to is fully behind Wednesday. We are very much rooting for you to um, get rid of he who shall not be named. That's the way we did it when we had an unscrupulous owner. We did not name that person. That is what they want. They want the publicity and they want the infamy. Don't give it to them, basically. And so we're all fully with you. We empathize with you. It must be awful listening to and seeing the money Wrexham are spending, and the money that Birmingham are spending. I guess the only saving grace right now is that Sheffield United are flailing, and I don't know what their excuse is, to be honest. So that might be the only little thing you can cling to at this. Really, really, yeah. I know I made a joke there. It's really serious what you guys are going through, and it's been really serious what's happened to Morecambe, and football, shouldn't be a situation where your club has even any potential to cease to exist, right? Clubs they've been there long before us, they'll be there long after us. It shouldn't be in one person's hands to dictate what happens to it. So, very much wishing you all the best, just except for the result on Saturday. Apart from that, I'm fully with you all the way.
Nathan, really appreciate that. Honestly, I genuinely do, because it's something that it's hard. We went to Leicester, and Leicester were right behind us, and I know that there'll be elements of certain fan bases that will tell us that people will. It's quite a tribal thing, football fandom, isn't it? And people will say that other teams get what they deserve and so forth. But as you've just alluded to there, it's a thing that is so close to a community's sort of hearts. And I know that there are two big clubs in Sheffield at the moment. To see both of them where they are at the moment, and Wednesday fans won't thank me for saying this. We are a city that is too big to have two teams at the bottom of the Championship for whatever circumstances they are. And my thing is always, I'd rather Sheffield Wednesday be just one place above Sheffield United and lauding that sort of superiority there. But we need that success in our city. Let's get on to Saturday then. How do you see yourselves lining up? What are your expectations going into the game? Is this where your season kicks off, or is it going to be another sort of toil against a team that you don't know much about, because we don't know much about them, because we haven't got many players that we know?
Well, look, I spoke to George Dobson after the West Brom game, and it was kind of put to him by a few people that, well, it's Sheffield Wednesday next. It's Sheffield Wednesday sort of thing. And he said, I watched them against Leicester. They were the better team for the first half, definitely. So I don't think it's Sheffield Wednesday rhetoric will be taking any sort of hold in the dressing room whatsoever. And I know you went behind very quickly to Stoke. I didn't watch that game, so I can't say if you were competitive in that or not. But definitely that first half I watched against Leicester, I thought you were decent. The interesting one for us, Danny Ward makes a big mistake conceding that his near post. I still think he'll go with Danny Ward. I think he made a big statement, Phil Parkinson, picking him ahead of Arthur Okonkwo in goal. I would have gone with Arthur to start the season. He was brilliant last season, didn't do anything wrong. But you made your decision. He's your number one. I don't think you can drop him after 2 games. That seems crazy to me. So I think it'll be Danny Ward in goal. I think it'll be Liberato Kakache left wing back, and I think it'll be Ryan Barnett continuing at right wing back. I don't know the situation. I mean, speaking on Tuesday now, I don't know the situation around Callum Doyle. He hasn't signed yet officially, so I can't come on here and say he'll play. if he has arrived, he might do. But let's just go with what I know for now, which will be Lewis Brunt at left centre back, Connor Cody is the central centre back, and Max Cleworth at right centre back. So that'll be your back five. It'll be a midfield three of Lewis O'Brien, Matty James, and I would guess George Dobson again, just because of the injury to Windass. And then I think it'll be Nathan Broadhead playing off Kiefer Moore. That's how I see it. I would like to think maybe they'd go a little bit more adventurous in midfield, but I just think injuries at the minute dictate that it will probably be Dobson, James, and O'Brien in there.
Okay. And as a sort of a loose observer of Sheffield Wednesday, is there anybody in the Wednesday team that you're looking out for, thinking he might give us a couple of headaches? He's the person that we need to try and get hold of.
The keeper, honestly, Pierce Charles. I thought he was really good, and made some really good saves. He looks about 15 years old, but I mean, I'm assuming he's a little bit older than that. He looks very young, and I think his brother Shay Charles, obviously you know well as well. I thought he was magnificent in that first game where we lost to Southampton. I thought he was really like a Rolls Royce. Chalabar, I know he scored the goal. I do like him when I watch him, but I think is he injured? I don't know. It sounds
He's
like
injured.
he's injured. Yeah, he's just really good, big long strider. Um, and yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's funny in my day job, the amount of players that get brought up in conversation when it comes to Sheffield Wednesday is staggering. You know, the amount of loanees, particularly at Manchester United, where that's what I write about on the daily, that are having an active conversation with Sheffield Wednesday. I just hope you can get some players, because to see the likes of like Callum Patterson at MK Dons and others that, and I can't say I know for a fact, that'd be crazy because I don't cover Wednesday, but I would wager that if circumstances were different, all of those lads would still want to be at Sheffield Wednesday. I would love to say that now Josh Windass would turn his back on Wednesday and come to Wrexham anyway. But like a lot of these lads would stay at Wednesday if it wasn't just the most basket case scenario, So yeah, that's a complete tangent to who am I looking out for? The keeper, Shay Charles, because we scored once against Southampton. We scored twice, although one was very late on against West Brom. I just think a good goalkeeper. We aren't clinical, and I don't think maybe Pierce Charles is going to gift us a goal like maybe Danny Ward gifted West Brom their second one. So that's slightly disconcerting.
Yeah, he's not renowned for gifting at the moment. There was one sort of high profile against Stoke last season where he kicked the ball against one of their players, who then ran off celebrating like he'd scored in the World Cup final. But other than that, he's been fairly sort of solid, and he's the one at the moment. There's rumours of asset stripping going on at Hillsborough. He seems to be the one that everybody's sort of clenching at the minute, hoping that he's still here on 1st or 2nd of September, whenever the transfer deadline is closed. And if that's the case, then we've got something to cling on to for the next 3 months to hopefully keep us in touch with what the goal is for us, and ultimately that is going to be sort of 21st position in the league. So that's where
I'll
we
be
are.
honest, if I can just say quickly to end on, I've watched yourselves obviously in that one game against Leicester, and I've watched Hull live and seen them a little bit as well. Most predictions had you two to go down, right? It's early days and a lot can go wrong. I'm not so sure they're dead set. I think you've got an all right 11, and I think that there are teams that will perform worse. I do. You need a couple more. Don't get me wrong. You very much could easily finish bottom. More players could go, and it might be awful. But you've got some players in there that can keep you in the championship. So I think I came away from the first couple of games going, I don't know about Wednesday and Hull, and I think they're a little bit better than we think.
Yeah, appreciate that. Okay, last couple. First of all, give us a score prediction.
I'm going to have to predict a Wrexham win. We badly need one, so I'm going to go 2-1 to Wrexham.
Okay. I find it very difficult to disagree with you at the moment. And the last question, and I'm gonna end it. It's a Wednesday podcast, but I'm gonna end on a little bit of a Wrexham tip, if that's okay. You've come so far in such a short period of time. Where do you see yourselves in 5 years' time? Is it still the Rob and Ryan show? Are you Champions League, Premier League, pushing for the title, or are you just that Bournemouth, or are you still down in the Championships? What does it look like in 2030?
In 5 years' time, I think we've been to the Premier League and have come back to the Championship. I think we've scaled the mountain and fallen off it, basically. And that doesn't mean fully we're in deep trouble. I still think it'll be Rob and Ryan. I still think we'll have a good groundswell support. I don't think we'll be doing the documentary in 5 years' time. I still think we'll have great reach in terms of our commercial opportunity. And I think we will have climbed the mountain by then to get to the Premier League. I just think there's so much to do. We don't have a training facility. We are miles behind in terms of infrastructure. And I fear that the Championship is a bit of a reality check now. The Premier League's a different stratosphere. It's a different world. It's honestly, we're looking at Sunderland now going up and splashing some serious cash on good young players, and people are asking, can they survive? And they're a massive football club. So, and that's not to downplay my lot too much. In 5 years, I think we'll have made it, because there'll be such a momentum to try and get us there. But I think probably in 5 years' time, we'll be back in the Championship.
Listen, given where we are at the moment, I'd take seeing you in 5 years' time in the Championship, to be honest with you,
Right.
Nathan. Before we go, can you give for those that, again, haven't watched the podcast, the documentary, give yourselves a plug. Where can we find you? Where can we check your Wrexham stuff out?
Yeah, on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the usual places that you would get. Rob Ryan Red, robryanred.com. Very easy on all socials, Rob Ryan Red. And we do a show once a week talking about Wrexham. It might be music to your ears if you're interested in the Wrexham story. It might be the worst thing you ever listen to if you despise Wrexham with a passion. Or it might send you to sleep. There's a lot of different ways it can work. You need to get pumped up in the gym. You're angry, put us on. You want to feel good about yourself because you like Wrexham, put us on. You want to fall to sleep. You've heard me ramble on here, so you get the idea. So put us on, basically. There's loads of reasons why you could watch us.
Nathan, brilliant. Thank you. Stay on the line. Thanks a lot, and we will see you later.
Every week, live from 8 p.m. It's the Wednesday Week. Bringing you football analysis.
They said we'll win the league next season.
Bringing you banter.
I don't think anybody wants to listen to my boring anecdotes.
Why not? You've been doing it for 4 years on this show.
I should not have said that. I should not have said that.
This show's like, you're mental. No, I'm not.
Clip that. Bringing you terrible impressions.
Wibble, wobble, wobbly, wobble, wibble, wobble, Cyber Jordan.
Hey, pay your bills.
I don't know where these jokes are coming from.
Available on all social medias.
Obviously, this goes out on YouTube and as well as all the other social media out there for podcasts, etc.
The award-winning Wednesday Week. Join us.
Put that on your